The way I like to think about culture is that it's a balancing act. It's a balancing act between this concept of we have to have alignment and we have to have autonomy, like we just saw before. Alignment is that we have to have a plan that we're all, kind of aimed at. We have to have a strategy that we believe in, and we have to have a set of practices that we are doing the same. I actually believe this is really, really important. Here at Microsoft, in all the major groups, we snap to similar sprint calendars. So in the Azure IoT team and in Azure All Up, we are all aligned on a sprint cadence of 1 month. That's consistent across a group of 25,000 people. That's important because when we all have different sprint schedules, it's a bit of chaos and it really doesn't work. However, you have to be careful that you don't push this down too far and start prescribing how teams should work in every way, shape, or form. And I think the folks at Commerce Bank touched on this a bit as well. You can't turn this into a religion. You can't force it on people. It's not going to work. But you do need alignment. I also think that you can't have too much autonomy. There was a time in a group that I worked on when we had 3 different web frameworks in the product all at the same time. Well, how do you end up in a spot where you have 3 web frameworks in the same product? It's because you let every team decide which web framework they think will be best and give them that choice. And it turns out that that was not a healthy decision, because then we had to spend years kind of cleaning up that investment we made. And it created a lot of struggles for us. So I don't think you can let this get away from you and just let it feel like cowboy coding and a free-for-all. I don't think that's going to work either. I think what it has to be is a constant conversation across the organization about what we're going to align on and where we're going to have autonomy. And I think the foundation of all of that is establishing a culture where it's okay to do that. Again, agile practices are not about writing a playbook for everybody in your organization and then watching them and policing them as they execute it. That is not a healthy way to go about this. Instead, you have to have a culture where people are free to share their ideas, where they can share what they've learned, where when they make mistakes, they can share that mistakes have been made. When they're not seeing success, it's okay to do that. And it's okay to share how we think we can adjust. And that's a safe and healthy environment. And at Microsoft, we have worked hard over the last number of years to really establish that culture, which I think has been the foundation for this healthy alignment and autonomy that we've been talking about earlier. Satya became our CEO in 2014, and Satya really breathed life into the company, where he said, we are going to go be different. We are going to stop following this playbook from the past that really is not working any longer. And we're really going to start to harness the power of individuals, the passions and talents of people across the company. And this quote could not be better. Anything is possible for a company when its culture is about listening, learning, and harnessing individual passions and talents. Satya said that his job as CEO is to create culture, and the culture change that he talks about here, delivering a growth mindset, being customer obsessed, being diverse and inclusive, and really working as one company, one Microsoft to get us there. Steve nailed it in the introduction. If you had visited Microsoft in 2005, it felt like 15 different companies. They all had their own culture. They all had their own playbook. And in many ways, they were competing with one another. Today, it's not the case. We still have large organizations. We still have these big groups, but we are one company with one brand, with one mission, and we're all aimed at that together. Now, I want to wrap up here by talking a little bit about that culture and some of the key aspects of that culture. These are the key phrases of culture that we talk about at the company. So I'm not going to go through all of them, but I want to highlight 3 of them today. I want to highlight the core values down at the bottom, what those are, and how we kind of bring those off of the posters on the wall and really make those a lived reality. I want to talk a bit about growth mindset, and then I want to wrap up with our leadership principles. So let's first look at core values. I think one of the things that Satya did better than anybody, and I have so much respect for him in this regard, is he said, we are going to be a company where we respect one another, where we have integrity, and where we are accountable. And he brought this to, again, off of the poster on the wall and into the lived reality of people on the team and said, we are no longer going to tolerate a workaholic mindset. We are no longer going to tolerate a talk-down culture in meetings. We are no longer going to tolerate a culture where minority groups and people of diverse backgrounds are treated differently or not listened to. We are going to be different. And he replaced leaders across the company. He mandated this in his leaders, and he really modeled it from the top, that we are going to act and be differently. And I think in the industry that I work on, there are lots of examples and lots of places. We all know the stories well, where there are places where there's not respect for people's thoughts, feelings, and backgrounds, where integrity is compromised and there isn't honesty and ethical business dealings, and where people aren't responsible. They're not accountable. And again, Satya helped bring this in to be a core value. This is first and foremost what we're going to get right across the company. Now, second, if you followed Satya's career, you've heard him talk about a growth mindset a ton, embracing challenges, learning from feedback, inspired by success. We're going to get out of the boxes that we're in, and we're going to think differently and act differently. And we are really going to lean into and reward people who push us and challenge us and are curious learners and do that. So that's that whole growth mindset. And then finally, as a leadership team, we are going to make sure that we have clarity on what we're trying to achieve, that we are going to generate energy and, kind of build energy across the team, an environment where people can do their best work. And then finally, we're going to deliver on that success. We are going to build innovation that people love. We're going to be boundaryless in our seeking of solutions, and we are just going to pursue right outcomes. But we're not going to do that in a compromising way. We're going to do it in a right way that fits into the world, that fits into people's lives, and is healthy and very, very active. So again, these cultural aspects to me became that foundational layer that really started to help let the agile conversation become not just something that was happening in pockets of the company, but become the conversation that was happening across the company. And I think it would not have happened without this top-down modeled leadership with respect to culture. Now, culture is then played out in our key disciplines. And if you come and observe Microsoft, you'll see 3 engineering disciplines. We have the PMs like myself, responsible for what we're building and why we're building it. We have engineers responsible for how and the quality. And then we have design responsible for the pleasing and usable experience. Where those cultural aspects, where Agile comes to life, is how these 3 disciplines engage together, work together on a continual basis to produce value with a foundation of this healthy culture that then again results in this environment where it is fast, where it is fun, effective, and the like. And this is the outcome that I think we are still achieving at the company. We're far from done, but I think we've got a great start and are really moving in the right direction. So I'm going to wrap up with this. Oftentimes when I share this story, it sounds a little bit too good to be true. And I want to agree with you. This is not a journey of change from A to B that is littered with unicorns and rainbows. It was far from perfect, our journey to get there. But it also wasn't a train wreck. What it was, is it's a journey of continued improvement. And as we heard from Commerce Bank in the early parts, Agile is about a mindset. And our mindset and culture here is that we are going to learn and adjust as we go. And we're never going to stop doing that. We are going to continue to refine our practices. We are going to continue to refine our culture to make sure that we have the healthiest and the most effective and efficient environment for people to do their best work. And if we do that, we believe we will get the best outcomes. Finally, 3 key takeaways before we jump into our discussion. I could not agree more that you should practice and perfect the Agile science. Read the books. I've read them all. I've contributed to many. I love them, but don't be overly prescriptive. Don't turn this into a religion. Turn it into a mindset. Turn it into a culture in your organization. Because as we heard earlier, one size does not fit all. And you have to let teams lean into us as they need to lean into it. The second big takeaway is to stop celebrating activity and start celebrating results. Do not be an activity rewarding organization, be a results rewarding organization. And the final one, and really the most important, and the one I want to leave you with, is that I think if you start putting more energy into the culture and actually start talking about agile less, surprisingly enough, I think you'll actually start to get the behavior that you're after. And that's what I found to be true at our company at Microsoft. We were on an agile journey, but once we paired it with the cultural change, it really started to flourish and take off and spread like wildfire across the company. And as Steve articulated earlier, has been the foundation for changing Microsoft's perception in the world, changing the results that we're building in the world, and really leading to the value that we're able to bring to the company and to our customers now.